Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Business Growth Multiplier. My name is Mark Dolfini. If you're expecting the Business Growth Multiplier, you're in the right spot. It's good to see you. Go ahead and drop in the chat who you are, where you're from. Well, I guess your name attached to the thing would tell us who you are. But tell us where you're from. Tell us what business you're in and maybe what you're hoping to learn from today. I got in conversations with several of you prior to the program. I know some of you signed up today, which is great, but I wasn't able to send out an email. But I got an email out to almost everybody, and it was great hearing back from you, those of you who emailed back. Thank you for letting me know who you what businesses that you're in, what you're hoping to learn from this. Hello, Rebecca. West Sussex. All right, very good. An executive assistant. Oh, yeah, Becca, we were chatting. Very good. I'm glad you could make it. Yeah, let's see. NorCal Insurance. Sorry, that is Barbara Lee. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that was really hard to see. And Portland, Oregon, you're in marketing for the alcohol space. Very good. Thank you, Zach. Glad you could be here. Zach, Macon, Georgia, superfood business. Oh, awesome. Great, Carl. Glad you could make it. Kirsten is a realtor in Central Indiana. Very good. Glad you could make it today. All right. Well, we are going to get to the topic. We have a lot of information to cover, and I want to encourage you. There is a ton of information that I'm going to be passing on. This is about helping you grow your business foundationally. This is going to be about growing your business strategically. So I'm going to be hitting some stuff very top, like from big picture down to details. So we're going to be covering a lot of different things. I want to make sure that you guys understand that there's a lot of tactical things that you can do to grow your business, but it may not be stuff that you're ready for. And the reason you're not ready for it is because you either don't have the systems in place for it or you don't have the psychology in place for it. You'll understand what I mean here in just a moment. So again, this is the Business Growth Multiplier. What I'm going to encourage you to do is please put away all of your social media stuff. I promise your TikTok videos will be there when this is all done. When we get back, they'll be waiting for you. I just don't want you to miss anything that's going to be super important that really could help move the needle for you in your life and in your business. So for the next hour, this is where I'm going to try to land the plane right at the top of the hour. So please put all that stuff away. Train your brain to focus. Train your brain to be dialed into one thing at a time. If you're thinking about picking up your phone, exercise that muscle, exercise that brain muscle, and say, nope, I'm going to put it, put it away for now, and train your focusing muscle to stay plugged in for the next 55 minutes. All right, so let's get to it. So this is the Business Growth Multiplier, and really what this is about is taking a strategic approach to managing your life and your business. Notice what's in there. This is not just about your business. This is also about your life. And the reason you're going to understand this here in a hot second when we talk about vision is this is your business existing to serve you, not you living for your business. Now, I know there's a lot of people like, oh, I live for my business. I live for real estate. I live for marketing. Right? That could be a passion of yours for sure. But at the end of the day, you have much, much, much greater things to do than how you make money. And I would say for what? What's the money for, right? Like that's the part of the vision. We're going to get to that in just a second. So who is this for? Who is this for? Well, this is, and don't hop off. Let me explain why I'm saying who this is for, so you can say, oh, okay, this is still could be relevant to me. This is for established business owners with employees. And you're going to be saying, well, okay, well, what if I don't have an established business? Or, what if I'm just an entrepreneur with an idea? Okay, well, it could be for an entrepreneur who don't have a business yet, but know that they're going to be bringing others on board. This is not for the solopreneur or the one-man army who wants to stay that way. Now, even though you might think that, I'm going to encourage you to stick around because I think that you still could get a lot out of this. And I'm no disrespect if that is you. I was a solopreneur for years. And, but the thing is, it's really going to be hard to scale and grow your business and to do that quickly unless you bring others on board with you. And that could be in the form of not necessarily of employees, but it could be in the form of vendors. It could be in the form of other people who you joint venture with. It could be other people. All right. But keep in mind, I fought this for years and I was bottlenecked when I tried to do everything myself. And here's the problem. I know many of you right? I would venture to say every entrepreneur that I have run across is really smart and they have a really good work ethic, right? And the problem with that is that they're really smart and they have a really good work ethic. So the problem is they get lots of problems that come their way and they think that all these problems are theirs to solve. And when you do that, what happens is you get constrained on time very quickly. So you have to start carving stuff out and handing stuff off that are better problems to solve for others, for someone else. So you can handle the bigger picture problems and the larger problems. So this is about getting multiple things done. Because again, I fought this for years and I'm just bottlenecked because I was trying to do everything myself. And not that you can't do everything, but the reality is you're only one person. So you can only do one thing at a time. And when you have others in your organization, you can now have multiple things done at a time. It's just a simple math problem. So bringing others into your business, that's what has the scaling effect on your business. And that's what we're going to be talking about. This is the business growth multiplier. We're trying to grow the business as fast as we can, but not have it metastasize into something horrible, right? If anybody's ever grown too quickly or been in an organization that's grown too quickly, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a great feeling at all because you're running out of money, there's all sorts of developmental problems and all sorts of things. So later on, we're going to be talking about growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. But right now, let me go ahead and give you the presentation contents. The first part is the systems piece, and that is the personal and business framework that we're going to give you to your best life. So we're going to be spending a good chunk of time on this because this is the framework that I want you to build your business around. It's a top-down approach called the Viper method, and we're going to get to that here in just a second. Number two, the people. This is the psychology side of the equation. So we talked about the systems side. Now we're going to talk about the psychology side. We're going to be talking about leadership and management, and that is a critical second component. There's two main components: the systems and the psychology. You have to have both because if you only have one, then you're going to be lopsided. You're going to be off. You're going to be inefficient, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. We're trying to build a business that will stand the test of time. So now we're going to look at the four core functions. Then we're going to talk about scaling. Now, how do you take the things that you're learning, this framework, and put that into motion so it can scale? And then finally, I'm going to give you some resources at the end. Just let me pull over and park here just a quick second and just make this comment. I reference several things along the way that you can buy, right? Like my book, The Time Wealthy Advantage. I reference courses. I reference coaches. I am not here to sell anything. I don't even have an offer at the end. The offer at the end is a free offer to join my Facebook group. So I'm not here to sell anything. If you are interested in buying some stuff, drop me an email. Send me, I will send you. If I haven't emailed you yet, you will get an email from me, right? It'll be from events@markdolfini.com. Just to make sure you get the replay, make sure if you have any questions, I'd like to know what kind of line of work that you're in. It just helps me craft these a little bit better so I know how to how to answer the questions, because I know there's some real estate people in here. My background is in real estate. That's where I make most of my money's in real estate, but I developed a passion for writing. I developed a passion for teaching, and that's why I do these, because I really, really enjoy doing this. And I don't really have to do this for money, although I do it for money, right? I do it to advance my family and advance our vision. But I just want to make sure that you understand I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to make sure that you guys understood that you don't have to buy anything. Everything that you should need is right here on the course today. All right, so let's get to it. So when you're looking at taking a business approach to growing this business, when you're looking at your business, you can take a systematic approach or a social approach. You can take a process-oriented approach or a people approach. Right now, we're going to start out by looking at the system and process approach. So that is one of the two legs that we talked about. Everything that I'm about to tell you about this is the systems piece. This is in the Time Wealthy Advantage book that I just wrote. Now, if you are interested in getting a copy of this, you can go to my website, which is strategicboardroom.com. You can get it there. We can talk about it at the end. If you are international, the best way for you to get this book is to order it on Amazon. That's about what the best I can say. And you're like, oh, here he is pitching his book. No, I promise you, I don't make that much money. Amazon takes a really big chunk of it, which is fine because I don't handle the fulfillment. But if you are domestic and you would like a copy of it, I can sign it and I would give you an additional 30-minute coaching session if you are interested. All right, so let's get to it. So the Viper method is everything that I wrote about in the Time Wealthy Advantage. And the Viper method is an acronym for vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. I'm going to be going quick through this. So you're going to see this methodology several times. So I am going to be moving rather quickly just because I want to make sure that I get to the point about growing your business. This is great. A framework is great, but it's only great if you're actually taking action on it and moving forward. So let's look at vision. Vision is the first piece of the Viper method, and vision has two components. It has the personal vision and it has the business vision. So when we're looking at personal vision just asks a very simple question. Where do you want to go? Where do you, Zach, where do you want to go? Where do you, Kirsten, want to go? Where do you, Rebecca, want to go? And I'm saying, like, as a human being, where are you hoping this thing takes you? Where are you hoping this life takes you? If you woke up tomorrow with $30 million or 30 million pounds in the bank account, where would you be? Where would you want to take your life, right? From a day-to-day perspective. And sure, go buy all the stuff. But what, at the end of the day, what would you want your life to look like? Because $30 million or 30 million pounds even is not that much money. You can run out of that very quickly if you're not careful. So this is what I'm talking about from a personal vision perspective. The business vision is great. How are we going to get there? So where do you want to go is the personal vision. The business vision is what delivers the personal vision to you. And that is really important when you start thinking about this from that perspective, because now the business vision exists to serve the personal vision, not the other way around. And most people, when I have conversations around, hey, so Canada CEO of Business and Wildfire Management, holy moly, that's great. So the interesting thing about this is when I get in conversations with business owners, quite often they are talking about the really they get hung up around the business vision. I'll say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? I'm like, oh, well, I'm trying to get, $10 million in sales, or I'm trying to sell 1,000 widgets, or I'm trying to get it, 10,000 customers, whatever it is. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the business vision in that case becomes the personal vision. And that's when you create a life that exists to serve the business. And that is the danger of not having a personal vision, is that when you create a personal vision, when you create a business vision, before you create a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. And that sucks. I'm just here to tell you that's awful. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what I had done. So back in 2008, I had built a real estate business. It was about $6.5 million worth of real estate. And I was working, I had 92 rental units, and I was working, I was being whipped like a rented mule. And I was working 17, 18, 19 hours a day. Granted, I was bringing in $65,000 a month, but I was so leveraged, not just in finances, I was also massively leveraged in time. There was just no way I was going to get to it all. And the problem, because I never stopped and created a personal vision. So it was interesting that it was during that period of time that 2008 came along, 2009 came along, things started to get really, really bad. I don't know if anybody is old enough to remember the Great Recession. It was horrible. And the problem was, on the other side of that, there was people that were just getting laid off all the time. And it was interesting, once that started to happen, once the dominoes started to fall, I was working even harder because I couldn't even afford to bring in vendors to do cleaning, to do painting, because I didn't have the money. So I went from working 16, 17 hours a day to 19 and 20 hours a day, grabbing naps wherever I could. I would pull up to a home improvement store and kick the seat back in my truck and nap out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or however long I could, and then put the seat back forward and get back to it. And that was my life for the better part of 4 or 5 months. It wasn't long when you have a pace like that where it catches up with you. And it did. And I got a cold, and I did the right thing. I never go to the doctor when I'm sick, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go to the doctor and get some medicine. The doctor gave me some medicine and then sent me on my way. He said, hey, take the medicine and go get some rest. So what did I do? Took the medicine, went back to work. And in the course of about 2 to 3 days, I got real sick, to the point where I was having real problems breathing. And in fact, the only way that I could actually breathe was to lean over the back of a chair and put pressure against my chest. Something was very, very wrong. I go back to the hospital. Well, actually, this time I go to the hospital. The first time I went to the doctor. This time I went to the hospital, the ER. And this hospital was newly built. It didn't have a lot of infrastructure and processes built out just yet. So go in, and I'm kind of half slumped over, and they said, well, all right, we'll put you in this triage room. So they put me in this triage room, and I'm laying down now. And as I'm laying down, I got a momentary break, but then I realized I can't get up. I didn't have the strength to get up, and I started feeling the tingling in my fingers and the tingling in my feet. Before I knew it, I was starting to see the fuzziness out of the edges of my vision, and I was starting to mouth for air like a fish out of water. Then my vision descended from this fuzziness at the edges to a tiny pinpoint of light way off in the distance. What shocked me about all of this is how calm I was, which later on I realized is the effect of hypoxia. That's when the brain is being starved of oxygen. And I thought, holy crap, this is where I'm going to die. I literally worked myself to death. And I closed my eyes for what I thought would be the last time. A few minutes later, I get woken back up to some sense of awareness. They're fitting a mask over me. They're getting me this breathing treatment that I needed. And I was, getting admitted to the hospital. Wake up the next day in this hospital room, and I felt good. I actually felt really, really good. And this woman comes in, and she is a hospitalist, and I don't know what a hospitalist. I didn't know what a hospitalist is, and but basically, she's a doctor. She's an MD, and she says, "Well, I'm going to be facilitating your medical care between you and the hospital." I was like, "Oh, okay, that sort of makes sense." And she's standing there, and she's roughly my age at the time. I was in my late 30s, and maybe a little bit older, and she had shoulder-length dark hair, stethoscope around her, and a white doctor's coat on. And she could sense that I was pretty eager to get out of the hospital so I could go back to doing what I was doing. And she says, I know you're eager to get out of here, but you're lucky to be here. She says, if you check yourself out, if you survive and you make it back here, you're going to be way worse off. So she says, no, this is where you need to be for the next couple of days. I says, okay. And then she goes and she turns to leave, and she turns back and she says, I want to tell you something. And she takes her hands and she puts them in the front pockets of her lab coat. And she says, people who look like you at your age don't lay in hospital beds like this. You need to get a real look at what your life is before you leave here and figure out what's going on in your life. And with that, she turned and she left. And it was in that moment I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Well, what I did was I literally designed a life for working. I literally designed my life to exist to serve my business. And, it's kind of funny because I was expecting this, oh, boo-hoo, compassion thing from this doctor, and I got none of that, right? And that's why I started to form this personal vision. So I know that was a little bit of a long story, but I wanted to tell that and share that story with you because it was so impactful for me that creating that personal vision, one of the things that I started doing, and I started researching about creating, like, what am I doing this for? Because I've proven in the other side of the equation, like the other side of business, that I could work in the private sector or the public sector, and I could do this, right? Well, creating a personal vision, first and foremost, is about one thing that you can do is use a 100th birthday speech. And think about it in this context of who would you want to be in the room? Who would you want to be in the room? And what would you say? There you are, you're turning 100 years old. Who would you want to be there? And what would you want to say in the room? Right? Think about that. Next, think about what would you want others to say to you when you were done speaking? So there you are, you just gave your 100th birthday speech, and what would you want them to say? Hey, that was great. I love the part when, blah, blah, blah. And finally, I want you to think of this is what is the message that you would like them to carry outside the room to other people when you were done? So this is about establishing that legacy. This is about establishing that personal vision that's real for you. Because if you don't, you could potentially go down that path of creating a life that exists to serve a business, and it will never love you as much as you love it. So that's about personal vision. Next is the business vision component. The business vision component is defined by 3 C's. 3 C's of business vision. The first is core purpose. The next is core values. And the last is client avatar. So let's go through these. Let's talk first about core purpose. Core purpose is specifically what business are you in? That's why I was asking you on the email, what line of work are you in? I apologize in advance. I'm not going to remember what you guys wrote in the chat session. So if I email you and say, hey, what line of work are you in? You're like, I already told you, you jerk. Well, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just can't remember because there's just no way. There's too many of you. But the thing is, I want to know that you know what business you're in. And if you just say realtor, that's fine. But I need to know that you're a realtor for a certain asset class, for a residential realtor on the south side of this town because you know that school district super well. That I can get behind. That I can get behind. Or you're an IT professional in this very narrow niche. That I can get behind. Because now when you're really clear on your core business, what business that you're in, and what problems that you solve, and you can get really, really specific, it's way easier in your marketing to do this. So we're going to talk about lead generation here near the end, because again, this is about growing your business, right? Let's not lose sight of what this webinar is about. If this is about growing your business, you have got to be really clear on your core purpose. If you're a person that are like you don't need to tell me who you are unless you really want to self-indict, that's fine. But again, we're all friends here. We've all done this, right? I know from my perspective, I used to be in real estate, I was in crypto, I was in foreign currency, I was was trading stocks, I was doing all this crap. And none of it was doing particularly well because I was so fragmented, running from one bridge to the other. I'd start building on this bridge over here, and then this bridge over here needed some work, so I'd run over here to work on this bridge. Meanwhile, this bridge is falling apart, so I'd run back over here, and then I'd start a third bridge because I got bored. Am I sounding familiar to anybody? Right? This is what life is as a serial entrepreneur that's afraid to commit. Commit. It's okay. Commit and then put all your resources into building one bridge at a time, walk back across that bridge, and using the knowledge that you have from that bridge, build another one. That's how you do this. So, but you've got to do this about being really clear first and foremost in your core purpose. Secondly, let's look at your core values. Your core values are what matters to you in this business. And specifically, how would the world be worse off if you went out of business? I know this sounds super foo-foo and like, oh yeah, core values, how neat. No, it is really, really important. And the reason for that is because if you're not clear on your core values, you will attract anybody and everybody. And you are like, oh, I don't mind doing business for everybody and everybody. Okay, do you like working for people who are broke? I don't know about you, but I like getting paid for what I do. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, you can offer some stuff for free like this. This is free for everybody that's on the call. And some of you will come on to buy other things. That's fine. No big deal if you do or you don't. But most of you who are not in alignment with my core values already left, right? There was a few people who've already left. You know why? They were like, I don't like this guy. I don't like his vibe. I don't like his face, whatever. I'm out. Those of you who do, or you haven't decided yet, you're hanging around to see if I'm in alignment with my core values, right? Like my faith is a big deal for me in my life. That might chase some of you off. I'm a gun guy. I'm unapologetic about that. I'm a gun guy, right? That might chase some of you off, but I can't be anything else except who I am. There are plenty of other choices for other people to go and learn from. And I'm just saying, like, it's important to be what you are and align your core values with your client avatar and also with the people that you want to work for you. Your vendors, your employees. Does that make sense? Tell me that this makes sense. Like, yes, I understand core values. Because if you don't understand this, this is foundational. We're building core purpose and core values. And if you don't understand those two things, the third, which is your client avatar, is not going to make any sense. Okay? So let's talk about your client avatar. Your client avatar is who specifically and ideally do you want to serve? Yes, makes sense. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that. So who do you specifically and ideally want to serve? So I want you to think about this in three ways. I want you to think about geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Geographics, demographics, and psychographics. Geographics is specifically where they are. Demographics is who they are, and psychographics is how psycho they are, right? No, I'm kidding. Psychographics is how they think. So think psychology. So when you're thinking psychology, I want you to think about three things, okay? So geographics is obviously where they are. And again, it's really, thank you, Irma. This is really important because if you're not really clear about, well, I'll do business anywhere. Okay, that's fine. I can do business internationally. That's not a problem for me because literally 99% of my coaching and teaching through this microphone and through this camera. But I also do meet people close in masterminds here in the Midwest, which is fine, but I'm just saying, like, geographically, if people are coming to me, I'm looking at the United States. I have people from all over the United States that come to mastermind sessions. Internationally, I have people that come all over that will hire me to help them with their strategy, with their business strategy, with their life strategy, with their business strategy. I'm not a life coach. I'm not a business coach. I'm a strategist. From top to bottom, I want to make sure that this business exists to serve your life in the best way possible. So geographically, it's important that you identify that. Demographically is just who they are, right? Gender, married, things like that. Because there are some coaches that only want to work with women. Nothing wrong with that. There are some coaches that only want to work with a certain religion, Christians or otherwise, right? Doesn't matter. Like, whatever it is that's right for you, it is right for you. So psychographics is, again, how you think. When you're thinking of psychographics, think of the acronym ALEA. You want to think of attitudes, you want to think of lifestyles, you want to think of interests, and you want to think of their goals and aspirations. If you know their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, what they're interested in, if you know their aspirations, you're going to know how to market to them. We're going to talk more about that at the end when we talk about the 15 reasons why people buy. If you understand those 15 reasons why people buy and how you can deliver those 15 reasons for them, they are going to be massively much more want to do business with you because, like, oh my gosh, that guy gets me. Oh, that gal gets me. Right? I have said that. I don't know if you have ever said that, but like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. So that's why it's really important that you understand them from a psychographic perspective. All right, so those are the 3 C's of business vision. We're going to put the fries in the bag on vision because we talked about personal vision and business vision, because next we're going to talk about infrastructure. The infrastructure is the bones of the business. The desks, the chairs, the software, it's all the stuff that websites, things like that, that are important to the building blocks of a business. And you might think, well, why does vision come first? Well, the vision comes first because if you, let's say from a personal perspective, that you're building a vision where you're going to lay on the beach for 2 months out of the year in Spain, rubbing cocoa butter on your belly, and you built an infrastructure that you have to return, where you have to return emails and phone calls in a very timely manner, that's going to be a miserable experience for you when you're trying to lay on the beach rubbing cocoa butter on your belly. All right? So that's why the vision, the infrastructure has to be in alignment with your vision. So this is again, let's go back to the Viper method. We talked about vision already. We talked about infrastructure. Now we're going to talk about process. Process is simply how you do stuff. And it comes with 2 components. There's tactical process and there is strategic process. Let's first talk about tactical process. Tactical stuff is basically just it's how you do things from a day-to-day basis. It's your standard operating procedures for those of you who are my military folks in the room. It's the checklists, right? It's the day-to-day activities that you do, that, like, your opening procedures, your closing procedures, how you answer the phone, how you prepare bank deposits, how you handle a disgruntled customer. All these things are your day-to-day boring stuff that no one ever wants to take time to document, but this is the crux of your tactical processes, and you should have those things laid out very well. And even if you're like, well, it's just an idea right now, I don't know if I should spend the time doing it. Yes, take the time doing it, because it's going to start to cement things in your mind. I have written, I don't even know, thousands of pages of notes of stuff that I will never implement. You know why? Because it helped me hone what's in place today. And I've written 8 books. I'm in the process of writing several more. Right now, the one I'm working on right now is Leader Boss. It's about being an effective leader as a boss. And there are pages everywhere. None of them make any sense, but I'm one by one pulling those pages together and tying them together. right? So you just start doing it by doing it. Just start moving by moving and creating that plan. This little box around the infrastructure and the infrastructure and tactical process, that's the systems piece of the business. So for those of you who are my systems folks, I don't know where my systems folks are, right? Some of you are like, oh, I'm all about systems. That's great. This is the tactical part, or this is the systemic part of the Viper method, is the infrastructure and the tactical process. Let's talk about the strategic process. Now, this is this is pretty in depth, but I'm just going to give you the 3 P's of strategic planning. So, and when it comes to strategic planning, it takes people, it takes purpose, and it takes promotion. The people part is, who are you going to get to do this thing? Many people, if I say, hey, you're thinking about doing this thing, right? You've got this idea for a business. You think, how can I do it? Right? That's natural. If I had 3 hands, I'd put them all up, because that's exactly the way it's common for us as entrepreneurs to think that way. Many of you need to shift. Some of you got this figured out already, but many of you need to shift and not say, not how can I do it, but who can I get? Who is better served to do this thing for me? Right? So when you're starting to think about people, you're starting to think about the people, whether you're hiring in employees or you're hiring vendors to do. What people do I need to execute on my strategic plan? And that strategic plan could be to gain market share. It could be to launch a new product, or maybe launch a book, right? Or launch a course, whatever that is, or heading into a new market, right? That's all stuff putting a new process, putting in a new product or service, whatever it is. But all of that is around strategic planning. So what people do I need? What's the purpose of it? Which is what I kind of just said. Like, what is the purpose? Are we gaining market share? Are we launching a new product, new service, things like that? Who, not how. That's exactly right, Carson. It was written by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy, and fantastic book. If you have not read it, it's a quick read. It's only about 140 or so pages. It's not very long, but it reads very quickly. But Who, Not How is a fantastic book. I would absolutely recommend doing it. I think I've got it right here. This is what it looks like. Who, Not How. Okay. So I would absolutely recommend that book, because it really gets you out of the mode of thinking, how can I get this done? Who do I need to do it? So thank you, Carson. I appreciate you you bringing that up. The promotion piece, by the way, if you're not reading, you cannot be an effective leader. We're going to be talking about that. This is the sort of stuff that you need to be doing. And, whether it's Audible or whatever else it is, personally, I read because I don't remember anything when I'm listening to Audible. I usually just sit there and dream about things that I should be doing and what's for dinner and things like that. So I choose to read. But promotion is the last piece. Promotion is just letting the world know what it is that you're doing. And that can be internal promotion. That can be external promotion. That could be, just sharing that with, with press releases, whatever it is. But that piece has to be in part of the strategic planning of how you're going to get the word out there and let people know what it is that you're doing. So that's the strategic planning part of process. We talked about tactical, we talked about strategic, and now we are going to talk about execution. Execution is where all the things get done. And General George Patton said these words: a good plan violently executed now is far better than a perfect plan executed next week. The point is that you can't get hung up on planning. Planning is extremely important, and sometimes that is the only action that you can take because you don't have enough knowledge. You don't have the right who's in place. You don't have the right you're not even sure of the plan, right? But the reason that you have to have an execution component in your strategy, or in the Viper method, in your methodology, is because most plans fall apart in their execution, right? So you have to have an execution component to this. And this is where you're establishing priorities, because having too many priorities has the same impact as having none. So you have to make sure that, having these priorities, and this is where you establish what's called the daily 5. The daily 5 are the 5 most highly specific actions you're going to take that are going to move the needle towards your vision or your strategic plan. So who's out there that has that daily to-do list of 37 or 97 items? I know you're out there. Come on, let's see it, right? That's okay. But what I'm talking about is, I'm not talking about check email. I'm not talking about check voicemail or brush teeth. I'm talking about line up 5 podcasts for the next month. That would be 5 very specific actions that are going to be promoting whatever it is that you're doing. That would be, right? That would be 5. For me, 3 seems to be the sweet spot. 3 seems to be the sweet spot. But again, you have to make sure that your actions are moving the needle towards your vision, because a lot of this becomes action faking, and it looks like you're taking action and you're like, well, I ordered business cards. You're like, really? Is ordering the business cards, did that really take 4 hours? I mean, really? You could have done that on Canva in like 12 minutes. So that's what I'm saying. You can get hung up on a lot of stuff that looks like action taking, but it's actually action faking. So the last piece here is reporting. So the reporting piece is just letting us know what happened. And by doing that, you have lead metrics and you have lag metrics. Lead metrics are just simply the actions and activities that you took. Lag metrics are just the results of those actions and activities. So when you're looking at this, you might be saying, well, what are the actions and activities? Well, if I was going to say, well, like for example, with you guys, I sent emails to all of you. That's part of lead metrics. Lag metrics are things that I don't really have direct control over. I don't have any direct control whether you guys showed up today. I don't have any direct control of whether any of you buy anything, right? So you're like, why am I being so transparent? Because I want you to see what it is that I'm doing. I'm not trying to be sneaky about this. I'm not trying to hide anything. I want you to see what, if you sign on to someone else's webinar, they're going to try to, you're like, oh, here's where he's trying to sell me something. Okay, let's see how he does, right? Unpack it, disassociate yourself from it so you can learn from it. It's exactly what I did watching, I don't even know, thousands maybe webinars of people who are doing it well. I'm like, okay, let's see what he did. Let's see what he does. And some of it was so icky. I was like, oh my gosh, this is gross. Is this ever going to wash off? I don't want to sell that way. I would rather just let people know that I have a thing. And if they want the thing, they can go buy the thing. Not like holding their head underwater until they say yes. That to me does not work. I don't like that approach. And many, many, many people don't either. It's effective, even though they'll admit to not liking it. They're like, yeah, I hate it, but I'll admit it's effective, right? So there is a better way that you can do that. So I'm just saying but that's how you start to track your lead metrics and your lag metrics. And that's really important that you track both of those things, because you won't know if your execution is right. You won't know that you're executing well. Okay. So I know a lot of you aren't going to do a lot of the stuff that I mentioned today. If you do nothing else, please track your actions and activities, and please track your results of those activities. If you do nothing else, make sure that you're doing this. So that is the Viper method. And in a nutshell. All right, so I can go much, much deeper than that, but I have to leave it there because we're running out of time. So let's talk about the people component to this. The systems are important, but the systems are only going to get you so far. Remember, we're trying to build and scale a business here. So even though you're building the systems are great for stability, they're great for consistency, they're great for accountability. That's great, but they are limited because they cannot make subjective decisions, adapting to market changes, right? And especially when the market changes are very, very quick. Coming up with creative solutions, you're like, yeah, but AI. Yeah, AI can do some of that. But the reality is, the point of you doing it, of having people doing it, is because you're learning. And keep in mind that AI is only learning at the pace of humanity. Because what's it doing? It's scanning the web for the best minds. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that. But the thing is, that means you're thinking about like everybody else. Think about that. So that's why I'm saying like coming up with creative solutions, and that's why the systems are limited. It's still limited by a system. So also making human connections. I don't know about you, and again, not to drag on AI, I can always tell when it's an AI. Always. I can always tell. And I'm not even that into it. I'm like, yeah, their answers are they're just weird. And I can tell when I'm not having a human conversation. So I just start disconnecting, and they're not trying to re-engage in a way that I know a human would. So again, maybe that's just because I'm an empath and I can pick up on energy pretty quick, but I can always tell. So again, there's limitations to that. And I'm just letting you know that the best businesses, yes, use AI as a tool, but don't use it as a crutch. Use it as a tool, not as a crutch. And if you come and say, hey, AI can be an amazing solution for you, especially for those of you who are selling AI related products, just sell it as a tool. Say, hey, look, this isn't gonna solve every problem for you, but this will solve a lot of problems that right now your people are being so constrained by capacity. This can pick up the piece so they can do better at managing people on the other side. If anything, AI should enhance relationships because it should answer the mundane. It should answer the questions that are just kind of rote. Does that make sense? The ones that are actually taking creativity and a way of thinking outside the box. I don't know if you've ever been caught in one of those loops where you can't talk to a human on some sort of platform, a SaaS platform. I don't know how frustrating that is for you. It is massively frustrating for me. I'm ready to take a hostage by the end of it. So I'm just saying that's why there are limitations to it, and you have to recognize that. So if you can position yourself as especially if you have an AI platform, put yourself in that position of that person. Say, look, this isn't going to take place of it, but it's going to enhance your customer service. Use it as a tool, not as a crutch. So now we talked about the systems and processes part. We talked about the social aspect, or I'm sorry, we talked about the systemic part. Now we're going to talk about the social aspect of this. And this is the 3 pillars model of leadership, which is all around trust, vision, and communication. Trust, vision, and communication. Does leadership really matter, or is this just kind of woo-woo, fluffy stuff that's just you read out of an HR textbook? No, it really does matter. Why leadership matters? This is something that I've come up with in Leader Boss, and I really recognize this as I've talked how I've had literally, I don't know, thousands of conversations with business owners, probably tens of thousands of conversations at this point, is leadership absolutely matters. And this is the difference between having too much caring versus having too much candor. Most of the people that end up working with me, they have way too much caring. They're like, oh, because again, keep in mind, I was in the real estate business. I've been in the real estate business for 25 years now, and I'm in my 50s. And people say, oh, wow, like would love to have rental properties, but I'm just too nice, right? They're too caring, right? They don't have the ability to have candor. And because they don't have the ability to have candor, it means they're not able to have tough conversations because it's tough for them. So this is where you have to have an equal amounts of caring versus candor. If you are too caring, people will walk all over you. If you have too much candor, you're a tyrant and no one wants to work with you. So there has to be an equal balance, I would argue, equal balance between caring and candor. And this is really important because if you don't do this, you're not going to be effective as a leader. And this is something that a level 5 leader, which is written about by, so actually John Maxwell talked about level 5 leaders, but also Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, he talked about level 5 leaders. And level 5 leader companies are significantly more profitable. They grow much faster than their industry counterparts, and they have a much stronger company culture. And guess what? They had much better defined core values. Basically, how they did business, which was what the core values is what define their company culture. And I'm just going to make a quick point here. If you don't take the time to define your company culture, if you don't take the time to define your company core values, your company culture is going to be defined by the strongest personality in the room. So if that's you, that's great. If that's not you, that's less great. And if it is you, keep in mind, you can never leave. You can never sell the business. You can never take vacations because you're the strongest personality in the room, it leaves a vacuum when you leave. So this is why you need to have defined company core values if you are going to be growing a business of any size. And especially if you don't want it growing up into a toxic work environment. And that can happen like that. It can happen with one bad hire, one hire that's not in alignment with your core values. So let's bring this to something more tangible. So you're looking at companies like, Amgen, Intel, Microsoft, and Southwest. This was studied in a book called Great by Choice by, again, Jim Collins. They did a 30-year study of these two sets of companies, Amgen versus Genentech, Intel versus AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, Microsoft versus Apple. At the time, Apple was sucking wind, and Southwest Airlines versus Pacific Southwest Airlines. And the differences were significant. So if you just look at Amgen, Amgen did 24 times better than the overall market. So you take $1,000 and invest it in the entire market, like the S&P 500, and you put $1,000 in Amgen, you would have made significantly more money. You would have made 24 times more money than you would have with your investment in just the overall market. If you invested in just the broad index in the industry, or I'm sorry, the just industry related, you would have had a 77 times better return in Amgen than you would have the entire industry. Okay. Same thing with Intel, Microsoft, Southwest is probably the biggest one, 63 times the market, 550 times the overall industry. And this is something that's interesting is that the 100 best places to work, that list that's put out by Forbes frequently represents the companies with the highest stock returns, the highest equity returns, the highest valuations. So if you are looking to ever create a business that you want to sell, or maybe you just walk away from it at some point, or you have someone else manage it. Leadership makes a huge difference. And the fact is that growth requires change. So if you're growing from one customer to 100 customers, that's change. And guess what manages that change? Leadership is what manages that change. So how do I get my people to care as much as I do? Or you might be asking yourself, how do I feel like I should be much further along in my business? Well, the reality is that when you're looking at the reality, hold on, come on, there we go. The speed of the leader, the reality is the speed of the leader is the speed of the team. The team can never go faster than the leader. The leader is the one who sets the pace. And this is also important in the context of execution, remember, which is the E in the Viper method. Since the leader is the one that sets the pace, it's up to the leader to make sure that things are getting done and executed timely. You cannot take forever to do something. The market just simply moves too fast. This is also why you can't have 50 things going on to stay true to your priorities. So remember that, having an abundance of priorities, having too many priorities has the same effect as having no priorities. So this is why you have to have good, strong leadership in your organization. So we talked about the systematic and process side of it. We talked about the social and people aspect of it. Now let's talk about the 4 core functions of business. This is true for every business. So the 4 core functions are as follows. They follow lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. Lead gen, sales, operations, and accounting. And your customer's journey happens in that order. That's important to remember. Your customer's journey in your organization happens in this order. So it happens because of your lead generation, and your conversations with that you're having goes to the sales function, and so forth. So as you're looking at this, now we're going to start to think about this like, okay, well, how do we scale this? Well, let's go back to the 4 core functions for just a quick second. When you're looking at the 4 core functions, the first piece of it is lead generation. This is where you're targeting that client avatar that we defined back in business vision. Do you see how it's starting to come full circle now? This is really important. So you're starting to target your client avatar based on your core purpose, really clear on your core purpose, and you're also really clear on your client avatar. And because you have a really clear client avatar, you know exactly who you want to work with, and it's much easier for you to direct your marketing towards. Okay, so let me make one quick point here because I want to make sure that you understand this. If you're a type of person that is posting on social media and you're like, let's say you're in the insurance business, right? And you're posting about insurance and you're posting about insurance and you're posting about insurance. You've been doing it over the couple of months, and now people are starting to get to know you as the insurance person, right? And you're putting out good content, you're putting out good value. I would argue that really posting is not marketing. That's a different thing, different conversation for another day. But what I'm saying is you're starting to occupy their mental real estate in terms of real estate. And then all of a sudden you decide, I'm going to start selling athletic wear. Wait, what? So now these people who once knew you were kind of getting to know you as the insurance person, now they're like, wait, what? You're selling? I thought, what happened to insurance? Oh, I'm selling insurance too. How much credibility are you going to have with them? You're like, oh, I can get my insurance and my essential oils from this person at the same time. I'm not ripping on you if that's what you're doing, but you are absolutely destroying your brand, and you're destroying your ability to generate trust. And trust in business is everything. Because if you cannot generate trust, if you can't demonstrate competence, you're not going to build trust with your avatar. It's just the way it is. So my suggestion is pick one. Or maybe have a spouse do this other business where you stay true to your whatever business that you're in. All right. These people are also the people that will bring me the most amount of money. They're defining a client avatar. They bring me the most amount of money and bring me the least amount of drama. So let's look at the 15 reasons why people buy. I mentioned that I was going to show you this. Let me get my mug out of the way so you can see this and take a screenshot of it. So keep in mind too, I'm going to be sending you all a replay once I upload this to YouTube. So if you want to view this again, but the 15 reasons why people buy, so people can make money, so they can save money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain. And keep in mind, pain is not just physical pain. It's also emotional pain, sometimes spiritual pain, right? More comfort, right? Better health. Better health could obviously be maybe losing weight, maybe, living healthier. Someone in here was in the, sound like they were in the healthcare field. But it could also be reduced stress. Think about that. how they could feel more love, how they could gain praise, increase their status, how many people will buy for truth, especially if they have felt lied to in the past. They will buy for truth. They'll buy for growth. They will buy for novelty just because something is new. They will buy to be in more perceived control, or they'll certainly buy to be in contribution to others. These are really important to understand. Now, I want your homework assignment. I'm not grading it. The grade will be on you. You could put it on your fridge if you want. But here's the thing. I want you to take 10 pieces of paper, let's say 8 pieces of paper, right? Back and front. Or if you want to do 15, that's fine. 15 pieces of paper. And put them up all over your walls, one right next to the other. And right across each one, put make money, save time, avoid effort, escape pain, right? Write them all across. That way each one has its own piece of paper. And I want you to come up with as many reasons, as many ways, directly or indirectly, that your product or service helps them make money. Directly or indirectly helps them make money. And you might be going, I don't do that. Okay. You're saying indirectly you can't help them make money in any way. Get creative with your answers. How many ways can you directly or indirectly help them save money? How many ways directly or indirectly can you help them save time or avoid effort, escape pain, or increase their, or increase their novelty, right? Like what are some ways that you can do that with your product or service? So that's what's important to satisfy their reason to buy, because the more ways that you can help them satisfy their reason it's going to be much easier for them to justify their purchase rationally, they'll buy it emotionally and they'll justify it rationally. So it's really important for you to understand why they're going to buy, so you can help them justify it rationally. Okay, if you can get this right, your marketing is going to become much, much easier. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. All right, so from here, now we talked about lead generation. Now the thing is, everything needs to support your lead generation function, because you can have the best, most efficient business, be a paragon of virtue. Your sales technique could be so great you're selling ice to Eskimos and voting booze to Castro, and you can still starve. That's the reality, because without leads, you will starve. You can be the best, if most efficient, lowest price, whatever, and still starve. So you have to have a laser focus on your lead generation function. And the thing is, you can never take your foot off the gas when it comes to lead generation. You can't just say, oh, I've got it, I'm good. Because I've worked with business owners who they were like dialed in. They're like, yep, no, we're good. We have way more leads than we have anything else. And all of a sudden, when the leads stop, they are caught flat-footed and they are dead in the water. So when it comes to lead generation activities, if you are trying to grow your business, if you're trying to expand your lead generation or your business in any way, whether it's through clients or acquisition or whatever, 60 to 70% of your actions and activities need to be around lead generation. And I mean specific lead generation, reaching out to people, cold calling, social media stuff, going out and networking, whatever it is. And some of you are like, I'm not really a social media person. That's fine. You don't need social media. Business, there's still trillions of dollars and trillions of pounds and trillions of rupees worth of business being done outside of social media. So you just need to figure out a way that you need to make sure that your product or service aligns with people who are not on social media. That's all. Because if they do rely on social media and you're like, oh, I'm not about social media, now that avatar doesn't fit. The message won't line up. Does that make sense? So you have to make sure that your lead generation activities are 60 to 70%, and you may have to get creative with this. You may have to look at outside unusual ways to do it. And guess what? If you're doing it unusually, then chances are no one else is doing it. So you have to think about that. Then the next conversation that happens is sales. The sales conversation just continues the conversation started by the lead generation function. And effective selling is about finding solutions, not about holding people's heads underwater until they say yes. So if you're in the operational function, one quick point about the sales function and the lead generation, if you guys are interested, for those of you who have not, Michelle, if you could go ahead and put this up. If you go to at the end, we'll put this up again at the end. If you go to strategicboardroom.com/events, it's going to have all of the, thank you, Michelle. It's going to have all of the links for these classes, because tomorrow at the same time, I have a marketing magic a seminar, which is going to be talking all about marketing. So it talks about a lot of lead generation stuff and lead generation techniques that could be helping you depending on where you're at. And then there's a sales one on Wednesday. So if you would be interested in that, and then I think I'm hosting a financial literacy one on Friday. I'm taking Thursday. I've got some other stuff to do. So if you're interested, just go to that and you can sign up for other stuff. All right. So again, as effective selling is about finding solutions. As I said, operational function. If you're going to get stuck in operations, generally or if you're going to get stuck, this is generally where it is. You get stuck as a roofer. You get stuck as a baker. You get stuck as a website maker, right? All these different things. In the accounting function, generally, if you're going to ignore something, you're going to ignore the accounting. And you have to stop and recognize, are all of these things the same skill set? Obviously, they're not. And this is why it's important that you're going to be bringing other people into your organization to fill the gaps where you're not good. If you're great at lead gen and you're great at the operational function, but you're not kind of great at sales, okay, you can learn to be better at sales, but maybe hire a salesperson that works on commission and pay them well. Right? Or the bookkeeping function. I have a degree in accounting. I am the least qualified person to do my books. So I'm just letting you know that I absolutely outsource this stuff because I am just not the right person to do it. So you want to be bringing in people who are in alignment with your core values. And this is the difference between growing by addition versus growing by multiplication. And if you want to grow, okay, if you want to bring in like just a lead generation person or just a bookkeeper, for example, that's growing by addition. Not that that's bad, but you're growing by one person. But if you develop that person into a leader, if you pour into that person and start training them and being better and making decisions on their own and helping them network and helping them be a better version of who they are, or if you hire a leader, now you're growing by multiplication. And that's exactly how I was able to grow my property management company so quickly. So here's the thing, and we're going to kind of put the fries in the bag here on this seminar, is if you want to grow, you have got to have the right systems in place. Okay. And now I like the Viper method because that has worked really, really well for me. But you've got to have the right systems in place first and foremost, because if you don't have the right systems in place, everything else is going to be contingent upon that system. And if you don't have the right systems, you have no choice but to beef that up with people. And when you bring people into an inefficient organization, it only magnifies the inefficiencies. So you want to make sure that your systems are right. Okay. So after the systems are done, then you have to have great leadership. And that may take some learning on your part. I don't have it on the doc just yet, but soon, probably next week, I'm going to be hosting a leadership seminar just like this. So you can learn to grow leadership, talking about those 3 trust, vision, and communication pillars that I talked about earlier on. So that is another component. But again, make sure that the lead generation actions that we discussed are 60 to 70% of your actions and activities every working day. And you do need to take a day off. I don't care what day it is. You need to take a day off because you will absolutely make more money if you take time off, because you cannot work every single day and think that you're doing well. You become the drunk guy at the party thinking all of your jokes are funny. They're not. I'm just letting you know. And then the last piece of this is hire and develop leaders. Hire leaders, develop leaders along the way, and that is what's going to be the best thing that you can do to help scale your business and grow your business much, much faster. That's the multiplier. Everything that I just mentioned here is the multiplier. Having the right systems, having great leadership, focusing on your lead generation actions to 60 to 70% of your actions, and then hiring and developing great leaders. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple of resources. These are all free. So if you are interested, you can go to, if you like, for those of you who are of the Facebook generation, you can go to Michelle's Got Us Covered. Here's the Facebook group. It is, she's got it posted there. It looks just like this. And just no jerks. I put that in there. People are like, really? Do you make us answer? Are you a jerk? Yes, because I don't like jerks. And no one in my group likes jerks either. So if you're a jerk, don't come. But if you're not a jerk and you're a good, nice person, you can come. But I post other stuff in there. Eventually, I'm going to start streaming these to the Facebook group, so you don't actually have to sign up for them. So once you're kind of in our atmosphere, you don't have to sign them for anything. You just know like when they're coming, and they'll be right now. I don't have a plan to change them. They'll be at 3:00 Eastern every day. No jerks allowed. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, you bet, Rebecca. And then if you are interested, if you could go ahead, Michelle, and put up that other link for the other sessions, for the events that I'm hosting the rest of this week. That is strategicboardroom.com/events. I had some people that were interested in maybe growing. Hold on one second. Or that were looking to purchase the book. If you are interested in purchasing the book and you are domestic United States, you can go and get it strategicboardroom.com. It's the front. It's literally the only button on the front page. So you can buy it. I'll sign it and I'll send it out and I'll give you a 30 minutes session. When I email you, if you are not domestic United States and you would like a copy of the book and you would still like a 30-minute session with me, here's what I'm offering. Buy it from Amazon. Just show me that you bought it and I'll give you a 30-minute session. I don't really care. It's not about trust and know. I'm not getting loaded on those sales. I'm just letting you know that that's the way you can do that if you're interested. So that's all I have, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. If you guys are interested, I will see you this week. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you guys next time.